Jaya observed two organisms, P and Q, growing on a log. She kept the log in a brightly lit room for 5 days, then in a dark room for another 5 days. The table below shows the conditions and her observations for P and Q. Which pairs of organisms can P and Q be? The correct answer is option 1. Let me explain. To identify organisms P and Q as shown, we look at how they react to light. Organism P grew in the light but did not survive in the dark. This tells us that P is a plant, which needs sunlight to make its own food through photosynthesis. Moss is a plant that fits this description. Organism Q grew in both the light and the dark. This indicates that Q does not need light to survive. Fungi, such as mushrooms, get their food by breaking down materials on the log, rather than needing light to make food. Therefore, since P needs light and Q does not, option 1 is the correct. Next question. Study the flowchart below. Which option correctly represents A, B, C, and D? The options. Answer is option 2. Let me explain. As shown in the flowchart, this acts as a sorting tool to classify organisms based on specific traits. We evaluate each path to match the letters to their correct classifications, as shown in the table. A. Not a land plant. This path leads to organisms that are not land plants. A mushroom is a fungus, not a plant. B. Land plant, not flowering. This path includes land plants that do not produce flowers. A bird's nest fern is a non-flowering land plant that reproduces via spores. C. Land plant, flowering, leaves not edible. This path covers flowering land plants whose leaves are not suitable for consumption. A dumb cane is a flowering plant, but its leaves are toxic and not edible. D. Land plant, flowering, leaves are edible. This path reaches flowering land plants with edible leaves, such as. Next question. Ashok placed a plant in an opaque jar with a single opening. After a few days, the plant leaned toward the light coming from the opening. What can Ashok conclude about the plant? The correct answer is option 2. Let me explain. C. It needs sunlight to survive. Plants move toward light because they require it to perform photosynthesis and produce food. D. It is able to respond to changes in its environment. The plant's movement demonstrates phototropism, which is a plant's ability to sense and respond to a stimulus in its environment, in this case, light. Other options are not supported because the observation specifically demonstrates the plant's reaction to light, not its ability to reproduce or its need for water. Next question. Sonam set up 4 experiments using potted plants. She observed that some plants grew well, while others did not. What was the likely aim of her experiment? The options are The correct answer is option 1. Let me explain. As shown, the experiment tests the effect of 2 different variables, light and water, on plant growth. To determine the aim, we look at what changes between the setups. Light. The plants are placed in either a well-lit room or a dark room. Water. The plants are either not watered or watered daily. Fertilizer. Fertilizer F is added to all 4 setups, A, B, C, and D. Since this is the same for every plant, it is a constant, not the aim of the experiment. Because the only factors that change across the groups are light and water, Sonam's goal is to see how these two specific factors impact whether a plant grows well. Ravi investigated the conditions necessary for seed germination using 2 beakers. After 2 days, the seeds in beaker Q germinated, but the seeds in beaker P did not. Why? The correct answer is option 1. Let me explain. As shown, the experiment tests the conditions required for seeds to germinate. Here is why beaker P failed. The setup in beaker P. The seeds are submerged in boiled water and covered with a layer of oil. Boiling water removes dissolved oxygen, and the layer of oil acts as a seal to prevent any new air from reaching the seeds. The setup in beaker Q. The seeds are on wet cotton wool, which provides both water and open access to the surrounding air. Since seeds require air, specifically oxygen, for respiration to fuel the energy-intensive process of germination, the seeds in beaker P could not sprout because they were deprived of air. Tara wanted to find out if moisture was needed for mold to grow. She placed 1 piece of bread each into a plastic bag as shown below. The table below shows the variables in Tara's experiment. Why was the experiment not a fair one? The options are The correct answer is option 3. Let me explain. The objective of this experiment is to find out if moisture is needed for mold to grow. To achieve this, Tara correctly added water to one setup and left the other dry. If moisture is the key factor, mold will only grow in the setup with water. For this test to be valid, moisture must be the only difference between the two setups. However, the experiment fails because she used different types of bread, wholemeal and white. Because the type of bread is different, it introduces a second variable. This makes it impossible to know if the results are due to the moisture level or the nutrients in the bread. Next question. In an experiment, Jayesh poured 40 milliliters of water into each of the 2 beakers, P and Q. He then placed 2 similar plants into the beakers before adding a layer of oil to prevent the water from evaporating. He recorded the volume of water in the 2 beakers 3 days later in a table. Why did the volume of water decrease in beaker Q but not in P? The correct answer is option 4. Let me explain. Both beakers contain a plant and 40 milliliters of water, sealed with oil to prevent evaporation. Any decrease in water volume must be caused by the plant's roots absorbing the water. The water level in beaker Q decreased from 40 milliliters to 29 milliliters, meaning the roots successfully absorbed the water. The water level in beaker P remained the same, 40 milliliters, indicating no water was absorbed. Why option 4 is correct? As shown in the diagram, the roots of the plant in beaker P are wrapped in a plastic bag. This physical barrier prevents the roots from coming into contact with the water, making them unable to absorb it. Next question. The diagram below shows the stages in the germination of a seed. Will the seed continue to develop if there was no sunlight at stages A, B, and C? The correct answer is option 1, yes. Let me explain. Germination versus growth. During these early stages of germination, the seed does not yet have true leaves capable of performing photosynthesis. Therefore, it does not require sunlight to survive or develop. Energy source. The seed relies entirely on the nutrients packed inside the seed itself until it reaches stage D. Only after the seed has developed true leaves and exhausted its stored food supply, usually around stage D, does it require sunlight to begin photosynthesis and continue growing. Next question. Figure 1 shows the location of a parent plant before it disperses its fruits, while Figure 2 shows the location of its seedlings a few months later. Which of the fruits below could not have been dispersed in the way as shown in the diagram? The correct answer is option 4. The seedlings in the picture are found upstream. That means they moved against the flow of the river. Since a river cannot push things backward, these fruits could not have been moved by the water. Coconuts, mangrove fruits, and pong-pong fruits are all built to float in water. Because they need the water to carry them, they could not have spread against the river's current. Next question. Which one of the following statements about fungi is true? The correct answer is option 2. Option 1 is false. Fungi do not contain chlorophyll and cannot make their own food through photosynthesis. They must obtain nutrients from other sources. Option 2 is true. Many fungi are decomposers, saprotrophs, that grow on and break down dead plant or animal matter to get their nutrients. Option 3 is false. A bird's nest fern is a plant, not a fungus. Option 4 is false. While fungi need water and warmth, they also require a food source, nutrients, to survive and grow. The diagram shows a living plant. Which one of the following is traveling along the path shown by the arrows in the diagram above? The correct answer is option 1, food. The arrows in the diagram show substances moving downwards from the leaves, where food is produced through photosynthesis, to other parts of the plant, such as the stem and roots. The process. Plants make food, glucose, in their leaves. This food is transported through a specialized tissue called the phloem to all parts of the plant that need energy to grow. Why others are incorrect? Water and dissolved minerals move upwards from the roots to the leaves through the xylem. Oxygen and carbon dioxide move in and out of the leaves via tiny pores called stomata, not through the plant's internal transport system in the manner shown. In the image, the plants are classified according to blank. Option 1, water and land plants. Option 2, flowering and non-flowering plants. Option 3, fruits with one seed and fruits with many seeds. Option 4, plants with strong stems and plants with weak stems. The correct answer is option 2, flowering and non-flowering plants. Group A, hibiscus and orchid. These are both flowering plants. They produce flowers to reproduce and grow seeds. Group B, moss and fern. These are non-flowering plants. They do not produce flowers. Instead, they reproduce using structures like spores. Next question. Look at the two picture. How are the organisms similar? Option 2 is true. Both organisms are classified as fungi because they share similar characteristics, such as how they obtain nutrients and reproduce. The diagram below shows the development of a plant from a seed to a seedling. Nandita measured the mass of the seedling at each stage of the development. Will there be an increase in mass from stage B to D? The correct answer is option 1. As the seed grows into a seedling, the mass would increase as it takes in more air, food, and water. Last question. The diagram shows how water is transported in plants. What is plant part A in it? The correct answer is option 3, roots. Water must be taken into the plant before it travels through the stem to reach the rest of the plant. The roots are the specific plant part responsible for absorbing water from the environment.